Perhaps one of the greatest writing blunders in season one of the Rings of Power, at least for me as a viewer, was the character known as the Stranger at the end of the first season, doing the whole line about when in doubt, follow your nose, which literally stole the line from Gandalf in the Peter Jackson films, which in turn stole it from, I believe, Merlin from the Sword in the Stone film that Disney did many, many years ago. In any case, the fact that this wizard used the same line as that wizard led many people to make the assumption that the stranger was, in fact, Gandalf. But if you actually dive into the continued interview series that's been happening with Payne and McKay, they actually say that no, the identity has not been confirmed, and any fan theories out there are just theories at that point, and they're just so clever in the way that he could be anybody, and they drop lots of hints about that and pat themselves on the back about how clever they are about not revealing his true identity. Kind of like they were super clever about not revealing Sauron's identity, right? Right? I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfail, the bearded dwarven princess. Welcome aboard to the latest Rings of Power rant video discussion piece as we continue onwards with our analysis of all things related to the show and beyond. If you haven't already done so, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. And don't forget, every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time, we do the Mondays in Middle Earth read through of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and Silmarillion as we continue to update our knowledge on all things Tolkien to properly analyze the show and beyond. In the meantime, let's just take a look here at what they say. So, the stranger, played by Daniel Wayman, was first introduced in episode 1 when he crash landed on Middle Earth near where a group of Harfoots were staying, and he was the comet in the sky. Due to his memory loss, his identity was a mystery, except that he possessed great magical abilities. We do eventually find out the fact that he is not Sauron, although they tried so hard to make us believe that he was Sauron. When I was doing my review of the episodes, every time he would come on screen and do something, it would always be a moment of good where the music was very upbeat, followed by some sort of consequence where the music would get very, very dark. Where they were always trying to keep us guessing. Because remember, Payne and McKay loved their mystery boxes, and they had to make this guy a mystery box 101 from the get-go, to the point where the very final episode in the opening sequences of the film, it's not a film, I keep saying film, opening sequences of that episode, we are told point blank by the three Nazgûls that, "Oh, Sauron, Lord of the dead and beyond, blah, 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 we bring you back and restore your memory," and all this other stuff. They really wanted us to have him be Sauron so that their reveal of Halbrand would be stunning, and it wasn't, but I digress. We do get the confirmation eventually that he has been labeled as an Istar, or one of those known as wizards. It's worth noting here that in the Screen Rant article that we're looking through, it says this does not mean that he is fundamentally good, since Istars could be good or evil, which has been proven by the different character traits of Gandalf and Saruman. On the heels of the season 1 finale, Payne and McKay appeared on the official Lord of the Rings Rings of Power podcast to break down episode 8 of the show. And when asked about the stranger's identity, they then gave us this whole let's pat each other on the back about what amazing writers we are. Subject is still an open question about his identity, and he may not be as good as audiences think. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Payne says, well, what I would say is we know wizards can be good and bad, and wizards are of the same class as Sauron. And McKay says, yeah, they're both Maiars. And Payne says, so the answer is there is no point at which he's a wizard. Oh, great, everything's cool because wizards can be evil and as dangerous. They can be rivals for Sauron or allies of Sauron, and the stranger's journey will continue. So I think that's an open question, although I do think by the end of the 8th episode, he sure seems like a force for good. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Follow your nose. There are 5 wizards in the Lord of the Rings mythology. And this is where I'm a little fuzzy on complete details because I have not read all of the, histories of Middle Earth and this, that, and the other. I've only ever read the Silmarillion, and the last time was 20 years ago, and I've not yet gotten to the Silmarillion in my read through during Mondays in Middle-earth. So I turn to the Tolkien Gateway for more information, which is a great resource I have found. Other people have other places like the Lotro fandom. Not Lotro, that's Lord of the Rings Online, sorry, but the Lord of the Rings fandom site, wikis, whatever. As always, those of you who have more information, feel free to chime in below as we go through this and read a little bit more about the wizards and who they are. So the wizards are 5 Maiar who arrived in the Third Age of Middle-earth. Now, there are some rough notes that do say that the Blue Wizards arrived earlier during the Second Age, which has some people going, well, Gandalf and Saruman didn't come until the Third Age, so, the stranger can't be one of them, right? Well, considering that the showrunners haven't really cared about timelines to date, I would say that I wouldn't anticipate them being willing to screw with timelines and say that, it is Gandalf or it's Saruman or maybe even Radagast. We don't know. We do know that he appeared to do some sort of moth magic. Gandalf was a friend of moths in the Lord of the Rings films. The follow your nose, maybe that's a common Maya saying. We don't know. But the reality is we've already been given hints that make it look like this is probably Gandalf. But we were also given so many hints about Halbrand, while them the whole time denying, oh yeah, he could be Sauron. I don't know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Yet every time he walks by a forge, he's like, I like to play with metal. Among men, it was initially assumed that the wizards were also men who, by long and secret study, had acquired great knowledge of lore and arts. However, as the Third Age passed, it was marked that wizards did not die, and so men began to believe that they were of elven kind. However, none except Elrond, Círdan, and Galadriel knew that in actuality the wizards were Maiar, vassals of the Valar, initially sent by the Valar to help and assist the peoples of Middle-earth against Sauron as he gathered his forces during the Third Age. The 5 known Istari were Curumo, Olorin, Awindil, Alatar, and Palando. In the northwest, Kuruma became known as Saruman, Olorin was Gandalf, Awindil became known as Radagast. It says here that the Order of the Wizards was created in Valinor. It says the Council of the Valar was called by Manwë, which resolved to send 3 emissaries to Middle-earth. Initially, only Kurumo Saruman and Alatar stepped forward. Manwë then asked for Olorin and commanded him to go. Kurumo took Awindil with him, so he took Radagast with him. Saruman took Radagast, and Alatar took his friend Palando, the 2 blue wizards. It said that Círdan witnessed the arrival of the Order in Middle-earth around the year Third Age 1000, although it says here in the notes, the blue wizards may have arrived much earlier. Their mission was to advise and persuade men and elves to resist Sauron. These guys were known as the Blue Wizards. They traveled to the east and the south. Let me look real quick, because they're going to Rhûn. It says they were sent to the far east and south of Middle-earth to contest the will of Sauron, but never returned. It said his conception of the 2 Blue Wizards changed dramatically during his later and earlier writings. Dun, 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 dun. Their fate was unknown. Some held that they fell into evil and became servants of Sauron. Tolkien expanded in a letter. He says, I really do not know anything clearly about the other 2 wizards since they do not concern the history of the North. I think they went as emissaries to distant regions east and south, far out of Númenorian range, missionaries to enemy-occupied lands, as it were. What success they had I do not know, but I fear that they failed as Saruman did, though doubtless in different ways, and I suspect they were founders or beginners of secret cults and magic traditions that outlasted the fall of Sauron. Tolkien also suggests that only Gandalf returned to Valinor. In the Unfinished Tales. Very interesting stuff here. So there's a lot of history that is written and known, and I'm not going to go through this whole thing here because this is for other readings and other videos. The thing that mostly concerns me, though, is that, they've obviously went to great pains to paint their stranger as a Gandalf-esque figure, someone who could be good, but also could be bad, as the music suggests. And there's consequences to all of his magic. Like some things are good, but there's, always some sort of negative side effect. Um, Throughout the first season, this recollection of memory and needing to follow this set of stars to some place called Rune, um, it's just more mystery box writing, which I really can't stand. It would be great if we just were given the identity of this character and then we were then made aware that, okay, well, now we know who this is and we know their story arc. We can kind of anticipate and be happy about what we're going to see from this character. Because if it's Saruman, great. Saruman did a lot of good for the people of Middle Earth for many, many, many years before he fell into corruption in the Third Age. Um, the fact that in the original lore only the two wizards possibly arrived in the Second Age makes it, if they were following the existing lore, it makes it most likely that this is one of the blue wizards. But we know for a fact that they are not following the existing lore. And what's going to be really ridiculous is when we get to season 2 and we find out that other comets fell from the sky around the same time, and he's going to go meet up with other Istari who also fell from the sky and had memory loss, and he's going to find a brother, and it's going to be the two blue wizards. I'm just theorizing at this point. You never know. Um, I don't think it could be Radagast simply for the fact that he doesn't seem to have an affinity for nature. But it very well could be Gandalf or Saruman, and nobody really knows a lot about the Blue Wizards. So unless they have this crazy secret handshake, follow your nose type thing, it seems most likely that this would be Gandalf. But the showrunners are also well known for using the red herring in a lot of different ways and painting this guy out to be Gandalf just so that they can pull the rug out from under us later and tell us that he's not actually Gandalf, or paint us all the clues that he could be Gandalf while at the same time telling us that he's not Gandalf. No, he could be Gandalf, but he's probably not Gandalf. I mean, he seems like he's good, but he might not be good. And he seems like he could be doing this, but he also could be this. Like the whole, like they're trying to play around with like, yeah, it could be, it couldn't be, but just stop. Just let us know. We don't need a mystery box to make the character interesting or the show fun. We just want it to be a good show that follows the lore of the books. If you can do that, which you haven't done to date, fans might be a little more willing to watch. In any case, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think about The Stranger? Do you think it probably is Gandalf? Do you think it's going to be someone else? I'd love to hear from those of you who are more knowledgeable about the lore than I am as to who you think this character could be, based on what you've seen and what you know about the Legendarium, which is definitely more than me. So drop those down in the comments below. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you want to support, hopefully you've done the like, subscribe, hit the bell icon already. But if you want to support and like all these people, it's really simple. On the premieres like this, I'm down there with you chatting away. Just drop a super thanks. Pick a number, $2, $5, $10. You can do your own. You can also do a super thanks after the video has been uploaded down there. And we have 3 tiers of membership for those of you who want to join as a member. There's also the Patreon page where my wife and my brother and I are building our own fantastical world and doing fun things there. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, happy reading, and I look forward to the next Rings of Power discussion video. And don't forget, we also do House of the Dragon, Wheel of Time, Star Wars, Star Trek, and much more beyond. Peace!